So therefore, we have a way to actually rebuild trust and trustworthiness even after it has been betrayed, or we have been betrayed, even after there's been a breach or a violation. A process that helps us reacquire. As I said before, it's inherent. We're looking to reacquire trust using the cognitive life raft of among other methods that help us build and grow and connect in a trusting way. Now, till now we've been speaking about trust in human beings. There's also the concept of trust in God, bitachon b'Hashem. And there's actually verses in the book of Psalms and other places that says that the only real trust you can have is in God, because God is unwavering and consistent and totally reliable, being that God is God. Human beings at the end of the day are fickle and mortal and have their mistakes. Yes, it's true. We compensate on that through those lapses through accountability, which is divine, and forgiveness, which is divine. But still, the true trust is in God. That's why you have the expression that even after the Holocaust, where people have argued, how could you trust God anymore after what has happened? So many answer, how could I trust human beings after what has happened? I only have God now, because I know human beings have betrayed us. So when you're talking about trust in God, that of course is a whole nother level that adds the ability for us to build trust is by connecting to the God within us, the soul. Your soul is a piece of the divine and is completely reliable. No one can take it from you. No one can give it to you. It comes from a greater place. And that, on a deeper level, is actually from where we really have that inherent trust that I described before at birth. A inherent trust in others and inherent being trustworthy yourself. Because we have that part of us that's absolutely trustworthy, that part of the divine that is completely reliable, completely consistent, and completely accountable. The question, the challenge is, how do we glean, how do we draw that trust into our personal lives? And the answer to that comes another ingredient in the characteristic, in the traits of trustworthiness, and that is humility. An arrogant person cannot be trusted. A person who's driven by self-interest, that is the driving force in their lives. They may be trustworthy for a certain short period of time under certain conditions because they benefit from it. But you can't really rely on them because what drives them is their interests, their self-interest, me. A humble person is not about me. As soon as you're not in the way, that's a trustworthy element. So the humility of a human being adds and allows trust to engender trust, because that becomes a container that channels the divine, the trust in the divine in a human being. When you see that humility, you see that the person is not thinking about themselves but about you, is sensitive, has empathy, cares. That humility is yet another trait in context of trust. Because humility, as I said, takes you out of yourself and allows you to become a more transcendent person. Which brings us to the ultimate beauty of trust. That trust creates environments and creates relationships where there is a symbiosis, where there's a harmony between different people. Because when everybody's self-contained and it's all about me, there's no cooperation unless there's an agenda, unless there's strings attached, unless I get something from it. But when there's humility and each one knows that my role is indispensable, so that creates a trust that they all trust each other. Think of everything in the universe is really built on that. That idea of everything working in harmony with each other. Our human body, the trillions of cells, the millions and thousands of systems, all working with each other, each one knowing exactly their role, and each one giving when they need to give. And you think about it, there's a certain magic, there's a certain resonance when you see that type of teamwork, when you see that type of harmony, that type of synergy. Think of a symphony. Different musical instruments, different musicians, each one playing exactly when they need to play. They rely and trust that the other will pick up where they need to pick up. And that's critical in any successful venture. Whether it's doing a project, whether it's a business, an organization, a film, or as I said, a symphony. It's dependent on the fact that each can trust the other. When you hire people and you know that you can sleep peacefully because they're doing their job when they need to do it, is a tremendous peace of mind in that. Think of the other way around, where you hire people and you have to look over their back and second guess and not sure, did they do it? And you keep asking them, did you do the job? Did you not do? It creates so much, it drains us. So trust is actually also a way of creating that calm and peace in our lives, where we don't have to constantly be guessing and second guessing ourselves, and we have that ability to really rely and trust on others. So that comes down to, as well, that bigger picture, the divine symphony, so to speak, of life, and how each of us contributes our unique, indispensable role. At the same time, we are dependent on the others, and that requires trust. Look in the military, for instance. The military is the best example, where it's in a very rigid form, in a very rigorous form, I should say, to the point that court-martial, look how severe, if there's a breach, if there's not listening to an order, because the hierarchy and the chain of command is so critical that and everybody has to trust each other, because you're talking about life and death. A moment can cause who knows what. So in the military, you see that necessity of trust, trusting your colleague, trusting your commander, trusting the commander, trusting the soldier. Everyone needs absolute trust. And if there's a breach of that trust, it undermines the entire effort. In other areas, maybe not as rigorous, but as I said, in company, organizations, you also need that. And that's a synergy that resonates. Think of the beauty when we see the magic, when we see different factors going together. You ever see a baseball team or another sports team? We're talking about teamwork, not a single individual, single person sport. You see that teamwork when everything is working seamlessly and fluidly. It's like it makes you cry. It's so beautiful in its cohesion, in its harmony, in its synchronicity. And this is true in nature, this is true in the human body, and so on, that we all have that ability to work together, and that's how trust becomes such a critical ingredient in building anything in life. And of course, the ability for us to blossom and flourish, because we have that peace of mind. When you have your nest, when you have your security, and then you can fly and expand your wings. You see a bird that does not have a nest, someone does not have a home, does not have that security, that trust. They're constantly pursuing it, and they're wasting a lot of energy, and it's draining them to find that little respite, that little home, that hearth, where they can trust and just be trusted and just feel comfortable. When you have that, it allows you to do so much. So many ways, trust therefore becomes a critical component in the entire picture of how we interact with each other, how communities are built, how society is built, how nations are built, and ultimately how the world will look in the best of times, in the messianic times, when there'll be that total harmony and that total trust. So trust is necessary in really building your own self, your own confidence, but also in creating a cohesive community that synergizes, that cross-pollinates, that everyone benefits from the other, because I do my part, and then the other will do their part, then comes back to mine and the others, and there's a constant flow of that many different forces that come together. So, with that said, trust, therefore, is a fundamental piece of life, one that is necessary in so many different ways. We discussed what are the character traits, what are the traits of trustworthy traits, how to identify them, how to discover it in other people, and how to acquire it, or I would say reacquire it when it's lost or betrayed. And when you have that formula, what you then have the ability is to correct wrongs, to repair any breaches, and of course to call upon, when necessary, I would say always necessary, the trust in the divine. In the currency of the United States, it says, "In God we trust." It doesn't say, "In God we believe." Faith is more of a passive state. Trust is an active one. Passive means you believe in something. Trust means I trust in it right now that it will be there for me, that I can rely on it. It's active. It's present in my life. And the same thing spills over, as I said, humility, which is now another trait. Add humility into the equation, a person that's humble, that allows that divine trust to enter into your being, into your life. Which is why it's so vital, especially in marriage, in all relationships, but especially in the more intimate and the more internal ones, because there it's even more important to be able to be vulnerable and celebrate that vulnerability. We at the Meaningful Life Center, we believe that this is part of our philosophy, part of our approach to life, which is all the work and all the array of materials and programs that we offer are about that. We can't ask you to trust us. We want to earn your trust, and we want you to earn, and we want to earn your trust, and we hope you, and you cause us to earn your trust. Sorry about that, because it's really a symbiotic thing. So check us out online, meaningfullife.com. Many resources, programs, all directed to building that inner confidence, that nurturing, the necessity to really, that is so important in life, and the ability to be a symbiotic relationship. And we ask you, share these programs, comment on them, send us your critique, positive, negative, whatever it may be, because we all need each other to complement each other to really improve and grow. Because that is what life is all about. That each of us brings our indispensable contribution to the world. Each of us has something unique to contribute, which is indispensable and that's why it's completely trustworthy. It comes from a higher place, from a divine place. It's not man-made. It's therefore completely trustworthy. And when you access that, you become trustworthy. And when you're able to see it in others, you start trusting them as well. So you can say finally, as a final ingredient, is seeing the divine in others is where you begin to be able to really engender and cultivate trust, because you're seeing not the human part. Even the human part, as I mentioned, lapses or others can be compensated for through accountability, but you see more than just a person that you're looking at. You're looking at something that was created by the divine, a divine creature that's part of your life. Yes, they may make mistakes, but if they're divine, they will also be accountable for them. And that's something you can learn to trust. Then it's not just human beings. How can I trust a human being when human beings are so easy to hurt us, especially when they get involved in their own self-interest? As I mentioned before, the opposite of humility is arrogance. And when you're self-consumed, self-interest, it's not something trustworthy. Now, in all times, this is important, but especially in our day and age, where so much of life has become devalued and depersonalized and commercialized. That's why there's such a yearning for things you can trust. We look around and everyone's telling, trust me, buy this, selling you everything. Most of it is not necessary for your inner inherent value. So in a world where things are commercialized, then you start thinking, do they really care about me, or they want my money, or they want my commitment or something of that nature? So in our world, even more important for us to connect on that soul level where trust is possible. On a commercial level, yes, you can trust it to some extent. They brand it and say you can trust our product, and it's been checked, and we have a certain longevity and customer satisfaction. That they say trust our brand. Now, sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not true, but there's always an agenda. When you bring the soulful dimension to it, what you're addressing then is introducing something that really allows for true trust to be built. I always find it ironic that in the financial markets, they call it trusts. They call it the securities. When in truth, money is the first and most fickle things of all. The least thing that's secure, the least thing that's trusting. Now, of course, I understand what their point is, that to say you can trust, you can put it in a trust, you can put it in security, to have a secure financial nest egg. But money itself, by definition, is impermanent. And impermanent things do not engender trust, because they are impermanent. You can't rely on it. You can't take it with you to the next world. It's spent and so on. It has its value. It creates the illusion of something you can truly trust, because people say, with money I can buy anything. But real trust is trust in people and in God. People that you can trust, healthy trust, because that is a true reliability that you have in somebody. But only when that person has the humility and has the divine component, that spiritual side to them, that allows you to trust. So what we have here is basically a methodology and formulas and ingredients that teach us what requires, what defines trust, how do you acquire and build it, and how do you identify it in others, to the point that we can create trusting and trustworthy relationships, that symbiosis, that harmony that goes both ways. And in doing so, we all become musical notes in one large symphony, each with our indispensable role, our trusting role. Each of us can rely and trust the other, and they in turn can trust us. This is our mission at the Meaningful Life Center. So please participate with us. Join us in this synergetic experience. Let us build that trust. We're here every Wednesday, 8:30 live, but it's archived. So truthfully, these broadcasts and programs are available all the time once it's broadcast. We're here every Wednesday, 8:30, and then they're archived. So join us in this journey. I look forward to, everyone should have a very trustworthy week, and a very trusting week. And looking forward to see you next Wednesday at 8:30. Be well and be blessed. Thank you so much.